on Red Gala. I'd like to first start by inviting Joshua Poitras, the owner of the Alley Out Tavern, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please face the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Josh. I'm Jerica Manning, Chair of the Pinion County Republican Committee, and I'm so proud to have you all here at this sold-out event. I'd like to introduce our stellar lineup of dignitaries and speakers here tonight. A couple of them will be arriving a little bit late, but let's start with the man who is going to lead the largest deportation of illegal immigrants in history. Former Director of ICE, Mr. Tom Homan. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik and New York State Senator Dan Stec will be joining us shortly. And Newsmax host, Pinion. I'd also like to mention our sponsors. We have a nice group of platinum sponsors, starting with Luck Brothers Inc., Duquette Building and Remodeling, Mark Henry, Chairman of the Clinton County Legislature, PM Leary Restoration, Fuller Excavating, as well as our gold sponsors, Riverbend Gunworks, JP Signs, and our silver sponsors, Senator Dan Stec and Ellis Automotive. Thank you all. I can't go without thanking Brandon and the team at the Rainbow Banquet Hall. This place is beautiful. We're so lucky to have a venue like this to host this event in. The Altona Fire Department for that beautiful flag outside. The committee members who helped with the setup and organization of this event. The volunteers who set up with check-in. DJ Mark Sand for once again donating his time and talent. DJ Flash who set us up with the equipment and a very loud speaker system. Alpine Amusements so that we can all find out how bad we are at playing blackjack in a few hours. And the blackjack dealers from the Keysville Elks Lodge and Mr. Gary Hart. Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce our dignitaries, candidates, and officers. Please stand at your place as you are named. Of course, Mr. Tom Homan, the former Director of ICE. Joe Pinion, Newsmax host and GOP surrogate. Our Clinton County Clerk, John Zerlo. John is also the Executive Vice Chair of the committee. Mr. Chad Deans, our County Coroner. Mark Henry, Chairman of the Clinton County Legislature. Calvin Castine, who is recording my every word in the back, Area 1 Legislator. My Vice Chair and Area 2 Legislator, Mr. Francis Perrier. And Kevin Randall, Area 5 Legislator. Our remaining officers, Mr. James Monty, our Sergeant at Arms. Lorraine Torgeson, our Secretary. And this lady's our treasurer, but she really does it all, Jackie Carter. I'd also like to acknowledge all of our town Republican chairs. Please stand so everyone recognizes you and knows just how much work you put into Republican Party. Thank you all. From the Board of Elections, election is David Sully, our elections commissioner. And Dan Bast is deputy commissioner. I'd also like to introduce Kevin Castine, the Teen Republicans chairman. And then vice chairman, Jacob Kay. I'd also like to take some time. Clinton County doesn't have a lot of local elections this year, but we do have some candidates in some opposed races. Mr. James Monty is running for Beekmantown Town Justice. Mr. Giles Fillion is running for Allenburg Town Council. Mr. Kevin Giro is running for Altona Town Council. And we're lucky enough to have Michael Henry here, who's a 2026 candidate for New York District Attorney General. He is going to beat Tish James. I'd also like to give a warm welcome to the leadership from other county Republican committees who made their way to support us. Jason Ellis, the Franklin County Republican Committee Chair. Representation from the Saratoga Republican Committee, Mr. Chris Starzek. And my mentor and friend, Tricia Turner from Ontario County, who is the president of the Federation of Republican Women in New York State. Tonight, you'll hear from a lot of speakers about the progress that we've made as Republicans during an administration that seems hell-bent on sinking our republic. You'll hear about the dangers to our freedom, to our country, and if we continue on this path, and the urgency of changing courses before it really is too late. We have a long program and we got started a little bit too late, but I can't go without touching on a couple of important topics. The northern border. There are very few people in this room who have not been impacted by the flow of illegal immigration through the northern border. If you live on the border, you know the facts. You check the locks on your doors. But what you're being told is what you see with your own eyes is not true. Middle-aged men in good physical shape, cell phones, clean clothes. We're told these are women and children who are looking for a better life and seeking asylum, escaping countries who are persecuting them. Last time I checked, Canada was not yet a third world country, and these are people who are taking advantage of far-left policies, turning a place that we call home into a place where we're afraid to allow our children to play outside or to wait for the school bus. Our speaker tonight, Mr. Tom Homan, and others in this room who have worked for Border Patrol, understand the true capabilities and dangers of this type of organized crime. I urge you to share with people in your circles that this is not a choice about personalities. This is not about who you like or dislike. This is a choice between freedom and tyranny, peace and war, prosperity and poverty. This is why we need President Trump back in the White House. We're not going to agree on every issue. Don't be afraid of that. We can and should have conversations about things that we disagree on. We will not be able to have these conversations if we're not living in a free country, and that's what's at stake. This year, we have the opportunity to take back the White House by electing Donald Trump. By adding a Republican U.S. Senator from New York by electing Mike Sapercone. Maintain control of the House by re-electing Congresswoman Elise Stefanik. And to keep our strong advocate for the North Country, Dan Stec, in the New York Senate. We have the opportunity and the obligation to save our country. We used to want America to be on top, and we were willing to inconvenience ourselves to do it. Next year, Clinton County has 70 town and county races countywide, and with that, we have the opportunity to take back control of our county legislature. We're looking for candidates, we're looking for leaders. And if that's something that interests you, reach out, get involved, take advantage of this unique democracy that the founders afforded us, and run for office. Because if we wait until we are all directly impacted to take a stand, it will be too late. Lastly, Proposition 1, you all have a handout on your table. This so-called Equal Rights Amendment is a Trojan horse. If this amendment passes, it's a Pandora's box. Everything that we consider normal will be up for debate and litigation. It will force newly protected classes to be pitted against one another. Will your daughter's right to play a fair game of soccer be inferior to a boy who identifies as a girl? And will your right to vote as a citizen be shared with those who want to vote and who are not citizens? We have protections for most, if not all, of the proposed protections within Proposition 1, so each one of you needs to turn over your ballot and vote no on Proposition 1. Thanks. Now I'd like to recognize some people who go above and beyond and present them with a small token of my appreciation. I ask that the recipients join me at the podium as you are named. To serve and protect, James Monty. As a retired, oh, go ahead, platform. As a retired state trooper and volunteer fireman, Mr. Monty is a man who serves his community well. His community included Ground Zero in the weeks following 9/11 as he was called to aid in the cleanup after that tragic attack. The title of Sergeant at Arms comes naturally to Mr. Monty, who has taken his role seriously and has mediated disagreements among the best of us. He always has a logical and reasonable solution to some of the most contentious discussions as a committee. Thank you, Mr. Monty. The one who gets it done, Lorraine Torgeson. Lorraine has been an invaluable asset to the Republican Party in Clinton County. In addition to being our secretary, she has circulated a record number of petitions for candidates. She's spent time campaigning door to door, and she has an unwavering dedication and willingness to take on any task. Her commitment to the party's values and goals greatly contributed to our success. Thank you, Lorraine. A hard worker, Eric Duquette. As a business owner, oh yes, go ahead. I'm going to pay for this one. As a business owner, the skills that Mr. Duquette has mastered on the job have translated to his actions in government and politics. Leadership, teamwork, and perfectionism are just a few of those qualities. Everything he's done is executed with precision from start to finish. He's never afraid to stand up for what is right and make his opinion known. Thank you, Mr. Duquette. And last but not least, a rising star, Brady Smart. Brady identified a need in his community and he ran with it. Being one of the youngest elected officials in the county, Brady didn't stop there. Once he was elected, he fought for transparency in town government and has inspired countless residents to take an interest in local politics once again, all while raising a family. Thank you, Brady, and we can't wait to see what's in store for your future in politics. At this time, I'd like to invite David Sulieri, Clinton County Board of Elections Commissioner, to the podium.
Thank you, Jerica. Thank you, everyone that's attending. Thank you to Mr. Homan, our former ICE Director and future ICE Director, hopefully. Thank you to Mr. Zerlo for coming. Obviously, it's great to see you. Great to see everyone here. Obviously, it looks like we have about 100, maybe even more than last year. It's always good to see this event pick up and see the Republican support that exists amongst the county. So last year, we introduced the John Zerlo Lifetime Achievement Award. This award was developed to recognize a Republican community member who has made outstanding contributions, given selflessly, and devoted their time to the Republican Party and their community. It is only appropriate that this award was named after someone that dedicated their entire life to the Republican Party and to Clinton County. So please join me in thanking the inaugural recipient of this award, Mr. John Zerlo. Jerica back to the stage, and we will present this year's John Zerlo Lifetime Achievement Award. I guess you're ready.
It is with great honor that together Mr. Zerlo and the Republican Committee present the 2024 recipient of the John H. Zerlo Lifetime Achievement Award to Mr. Francis Pinion. Francis has served in many positions throughout his lifetime in local government. Dog catcher, assessor, town justice, town council, and county legislator. He took the time and the effort needed to do each job with care and for the benefit of those who elected him. As legislator, Francis takes pride in his involvement with his committee assignments, stopping to check on each county department that he oversees. Overcoming the odds after a serious injury at a young age, Francis excels where least expected. Baseball, golf, billiards, hunting, competition shooting, you name it, Francis will never disappoint. In terms of Republican leadership, Francis serves as the vice chairman of the Clinton County Committee. Throughout his lifetime, he has mentored countless people to become involved politically, involved in Republican politics. He has always encouraged the next generation and has shared the tools to succeed with anyone who has shown interest. Francis has a special ability to work across the aisle without ever compromising his values as a Republican. Thank you, Mr. Pinion. Among the many titles that Chad Deans holds, pastor is one of them. Chad, would you please pray over our meal?
Good evening to all of you. So good to be this way tonight. See such a nice full room. It's wonderful. Thank you to all of you that traveled to be here. Would you pray with me, please? God, we thank you for this time of fellowship, friends coming together to have discussion. Lord, we ask that you bestow your blessing upon this meal that we're about to eat, those who prepared it, those who produced it. Lord, we also ask you in a special way to remember those this evening who might not be as fortunate as we. We ask this in your name. Amen and amen.
Thank you, Chad. As Ronald Reagan warned us, if we ever forget that we are one nation under God, we will be one nation God under. Dinner is ready, and we're going to start letting the tables go and get your meals. Once everyone is seated, the program will continue. Thank you.
Senator Dan Stec. got here. I can't wait to hear the other speakers talk. Tom, good to see you again, sir. So you're going to hear from our Congresswoman, and she's certainly going to talk to you about the state of things in Washington, D.C. But one issue that's very important to both the state and federal levels is certainly what's going on our northern border. We had a wonderful, very informative event earlier this afternoon with a bunch of people up here at Charbusco. And I had to tell you, your local law enforcement has been fantastic. Just a couple weeks ago, we had a press conference in Canton because Sheriff Rick Engel has been in the news lately, locally, talking about the green light law. 2019, the state of New York passed a law that did two things, and both of them are bad. One, authorized giving driver's licenses to illegal immigrants. When you the cops pull them over and run that license through their system, there's no way for them to tell if that person's here legally or illegally. Why is that concerning? Because that document can be used to register to vote, and they are using it to register to vote. So that's the first concern. But the other one, and very relevant here, is that it forbids local and state law enforcement from communicating and coordinating with ICE and Border Patrol. So up on the border, and we've had a lot of local stories here, you don't need to hear me recount them, but the school bus episode where 9 illegals accosted the school bus the first couple of days of school here earlier last month and scared the hell out of a bunch of elementary school kids. That's one of them. The trail cams that people have got on their properties, and we're seeing dozens of people in the middle of the night walking through. People are afraid to use their own properties, but state law prohibits local law enforcement and the state police from communicating with ICE and Border Patrol. It makes their job more difficult, and frankly, it's dangerous to those officers. And I liken it to a large structure fire. We have multiple fire companies showing up, and state law would prohibit them from using the same radio frequency. To me, it's no different than that. It's that asinine, and yet that's state law. The other thing that the state, so I have a bill that I carried with Assemblyman Scott Gray. And actually, this came from a conversation I had a couple years ago with your sheriff, Sheriff Pablo. Let's exempt, I just should exempt, get rid of the entire green light law, but we wrote a bill that would say we're going to exempt the border counties from having to participate. So that would give your local sheriffs the opportunity to work with, and they all loved it. We had a press conference, all 4 of the northern sheriffs, from Jefferson all the way to Clinton County, were there. So a bipartisan group of local law enforcement elected by the people, they were there. So your message is being heard, and I know you're frustrated, and I'm frustrated too. You know, as a parent, I remember the first day of school when my kid was a little guy, and I can only imagine what it was like for that mom to watch her little kids crying in the back seat because they were afraid to get out, to get on the school bus, which is already intimidating for little kids. You know, the first day of school, it's a stressful day for mom, it's a stressful day for the kids, and on top of that, you've got grown adults banging on the doors of the school bus because they want to ride into town. Absolutely crazy. So you've got people at both the state and federal government level that are trying to do the thing. When you're outnumbered, when you have one party rule in New York State, when you've got an executive in the White House that denies that he can fix these things with the stroke of the pen because he undid things that were done with the stroke of the pen with his own pen. And you want to just use it as a political issue. And in the meantime, you've got people here, and then on top of it, to add insult to injury, we, the New York State taxpayers, spent $2.4 billion of your tax money to New York City this year for illegal immigrants. Now, for a couple $100 million, we could have fixed all the nursing home problems, the Medicaid reimbursement problems, why our nursing homes are closing. We could fix roads, we could fix bridges, we could have internet and broadband and cellular service, but we're sending $2.4 billion down the river so that they can house illegal immigrants in hotel rooms and give them free EBT cards and give them gift cards with $1,000 a month. So as these immigrants are walking out of that hotel, stepping over homeless veterans to get in and out of that taxpayer-funded 3-star hotel in New York City that they're staying in. This is the priority of the Democrats in Albany and the Democrats in Washington, D.C. It's very frustrating. I will continue to fight. I know that Congresswoman Elise Stefanik has been fighting this and will continue to fight. But there's a lot of absolutely insane stuff going on in Albany and Washington. The most important thing you can do is make sure that you get out and vote in November. The last thing you want to make a plug for, and I saw this fantastic chair, that you've got a brochure on every chair, but this Proposition 1. So the proposition is anytime you want to change the state's constitution, the legislature has to vote 2 years in a row to authorize that to go to the voters. So we've done that. I voted against it twice. All right, but this Proposition 1, the Democrats will have you believe that this is a protect Roe versus Wade. And they would say this is an equal rights amendment. And that's what the media and the newspapers are going to say. It's equal rights and it's a woman's right to choose. That language does not appear in that amendment at all. If you read the amendment, what it does is it adds protected classes to the list of things you can't discriminate against. And among them are two that I want to highlight: country of origin and age. So it would be, according to New York State's Constitution, you couldn't discriminate based on country of origin. What does that mean? That means that they are setting the ground that they want to give illegals the right to vote in New York. Am I making that up? Am I imagining that? No. Why? Because New York City tried to give illegals the right to vote, and it went all the way to the Supreme Court and got shot down. Washington, D.C. did give illegals the right to vote. So the Democrats are already playing this. This is their playbook. So this is their way of, if we can put it in the Constitution, then we can give the illegals the right to vote. The age issue, that's where you're stripping parental rights. Right now, if you've got a kid in school, and that kid's got a headache, he goes to the school nurse, and the nurse wants to give him an aspirin, that nurse has to call you to get your permission to give the kid an aspirin. But if that minor child says, I want to undergo gender transition, and I want to do the therapy, and I want to start that process, the law would prohibit that school from telling the parents. Am I making this up? No, there's all kinds of legislation in Albany right now that would do that. There's all kinds of assaults on the rights of parents, and what this Constitutional Amendment, by saying age is protected, what they're doing is they're setting the stage so that they take parents' rights away from them and prohibit healthcare providers in schools. It would force Catholic hospitals to give abortions against their desires, imposing an agenda on people and taking their right to choose away. So Proposition 1 has got all kinds of problems. It's on your seat. But I think if you're offended or concerned by it, you need to tell your friends and neighbors they should vote no. I'll be voting no. But again, we're trying to highlight it because right now, in this political climate, everyone's concentrating on the presidential election, as is understandable. But this proposition could fundamentally change New York State's Constitution and the laws that will be passed in the future. So I want to highlight that for you and pay attention. This is a Trojan horse. It seriously is. So I hope I rambled enough. I see that the lady in red is getting up to give me the hook. Thanks again for everything you guys have done for me. I appreciate it. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Senator Stec. Next, I would like to invite our Congresswoman and Chair of the House Republican Committee, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik.
Thank you so much, Jerica. What a great job. This is amazing, amazing turnout. This is the biggest Clinton County Republican event in the 10 years that I've been coming to this, so I know it's a tremendous amount of work, and we are very, very grateful for that. I want to thank all of you for taking time on this Friday evening. I know there's a lot going on with families in the community, so thank you for being so engaged in the process. 33 days until the most important election in our lifetime. And I know we say that every 2 years, but this one really is, and I see a lot of heads nodding. No matter where I go in my district or who I talk to across the country, people understand that the stakes are so high this election cycle. Who we are as a country, the state of the world is all on the ballot, and it is up to we the people. The American people are going to save this country by electing President Trump to the White House. Just look at what has happened on Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's watch. Let's start with the border crisis. Earlier today, I was visiting with some of the property owners, local elected officials, including folks who are here today from Clinton and Franklin counties, hearing firsthand the impact of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's catastrophic border policies. And I know we have Border Patrol officers here tonight. First of all, we thank our Border Patrol officers for their incredible work every single President Trump when it comes to securing our nation's border. But I want to tell you some of the stories that we heard, that you are familiar with, that have been happening in this community. There has been a 50 times increase since Joe Biden has taken office of illegals crossing the Swanton sector, including individuals who are on the terrorist watch list. We heard from families firsthand about dropping their kids off for the first week of school and having illegals right outside of their local elementary school. We heard from families who have seen dozens and dozens of illegals on their deer camps, on their trail camps, and they would call Border Patrol, and Border Patrol would do incredible work responding, but think about the numbers that we have not even counted through Department of Homeland Security that are just getting through. This is a catastrophic crisis, and it started on day one of Joe Biden taking the Oval Office. He issued 94 executive orders wiping away the effective border security policies of President Trump. And make no mistake, with the stroke of a pen, he could have at any point returned to those effective policies. And Kamala Harris is Joe Biden's open border czar. She owns this catastrophe. She hasn't even been to the border, never really to the border until just 2 weeks ago. It is a disgrace. Every member of the House Republican Conference has been to the border because we know that every district across the country is a border district. Every state is a border state, which is why House Republicans passed the Secure the Border Act. Not a single Democrat voted for it, and Chuck Schumer has failed to bring that up in the U.S. Senate. We will flip the Senate Republican, and with President Trump in the White House, we will pass the Secure the Border Act, get that signed into law, build the wall, and catch and release, restore remain in Mexico, and support our Border Patrol officers. And I want to thank, just on the border issue, before I talk about the other issues, I want to thank so many of our local families and small businesses who have shared their personal stories, their experiences. Going back to the first year of Joe Biden's administration, we led the effort sounding the alarm on the northern border crisis when we heard from Border Patrol officers who had been transferred to the southern border, leaving us without the resources that we need. Thank you for the families for putting this front and center. We have worked to send up national media to cover this, and we are going to make sure that the northern border is not forgotten on day one of President Trump's next administration. In addition to the border crisis, we have an economic crisis. Inflation is the highest rate of inflation in my lifetime. In my district and across the country, Americans are struggling to make ends meet. You go to the grocery store, you see the skyrocketing of prices, whether it's eggs, whether it's bacon, whether it's diapers, whether it's bread, it goes up and up, whether it's cereal. People are absolutely shocked with this historic inflation. And the person who owns this inflation, Kamala Harris, cast the deciding vote for the Inflation Expansion Act. That was the $1 trillion of reckless spending, of Green New scam priorities, taking your hard-earned taxpayer dollars, actually further racking up our debt to communist China and fueling this inflation crisis. She owns this, and we're going to hold her accountable. Think back to 4 years ago. We had the strongest economy in our lifetime. We had a manufacturing boom. We had the largest number of individuals in the workforce, the highest wage and salary growth in modern history. We had the greatest economic comeback and growth that our country has ever seen in this century, and that has been crushed by the failed policies of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And we feel the double whammy in New York because we have those horrific tax and spend policies coming out of Albany that Dan Stec referenced. You know, we will have a very important vote next year. The tax cuts that Trump passed, some of those are set to expire. And you know what Kamala Harris, she wants to let those expire and increase everyone's taxes. It would be the largest tax increase in our nation's history. Trillions of dollars of new taxes. And here you have President Trump, who has promised to cut our taxes, which we will, who says no tax on tips. Everybody likes happening around the world. It is chaos and catastrophe with a weakened national security, with a fecklessly weak commander-in-chief who's mentally incapacitated, and Kamala Harris has known that for the past almost 4 years. Let's go back to the catastrophic withdrawal from Afghanistan. That is a very dark chapter, a black mark on American foreign policy forever. And it is because of Joe Biden's failure to protect our national security interests, and most importantly, his failure to protect our men and women in uniform. And the last person in the room advising Joe Biden to do that catastrophic withdrawal was Kamala Harris. And this has an impact in every district across the country, but especially this district. You all know this. We are home to Fort Drum, the most deployed division in the U.S. Army since 9/11. Many of them were there in Afghanistan, were some of our last troops who were withdrawn to come home. They have testified that they didn't have the resources nor the support from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And God bless those 13 service members who lost their lives. That should have never happened. I've met with those 13 Gold Star families. President Trump has met with those Gold Star families. You know who has not talked to or met with those Gold Star families? Neither Joe Biden nor Kamala Harris. It is a disgrace. We need a commander-in-chief who supports our men in uniform, who stands for peace through strength, and who brings deterrence to the office and to our national security. And it wasn't just the catastrophic withdrawal from Afghanistan. The rest of the world saw that. You had Putin invading Ukraine, and then last October 7th, you had the Iranian-backed Hamas attack against our most precious ally, Israel, leading to the bloodiest day since the Holocaust for the Jewish people. And what did Joe Biden do? He turned his back on our allies and continued to appease Iran. And today's Democrat Party is not our parents' or our grandparents' Democrat Party. It is so far radical left. Just look at our universities. Did any of you see that university president's hearing? Some of you did. What we saw on our college campuses was a skyrocketing of anti-Semitism and a moral bankruptcy of our supposed elite university presidents, supposed leaders of the intellectual left. They are so radicalized that they show the world. It is now the most viewed testimony in the history of the United States Congress. Their answer to my very straightforward moral question, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate your university's code of conduct? I always say, my district, my constituents know that that answer is an unequivocal yes. No matter you talk to a small business, a manufacturing worker, a mom, we know how to answer that question. It was a disgrace that you have the presidents from MIT, Penn, and Harvard say, it depends on the context. There is a reason they're former presidents. They have been fired, and there are so many to go. Rely on billions of taxpayer dollars, and they are becoming and embracing this anti-Americanism that is now part of the radical Democrat Party. So I talked about the border crisis, I talked about the economic crisis, I talked about the national security crisis. We also have a crime crisis. Dan Stec touched upon this skyrocketing of crime that we're experiencing across the country, but particularly in New York State. You have a failed, abysmal governor in Kathy Hochul, who, by the way, we will fire in 2 years. She has turned her back on our law enforcement with failed bail reform, releasing violent criminals onto our streets over and over again, and it's not just impacting big cities. We know it's impacting the suburbs and rural communities as well, including in upstate New York and the North Country. We also have a governor who has turned her back on our correctional officers. We know how important our corrections officers are to this community, to this state, and again, we will hold Kathy Hochul accountable in 2 years' time. That's why voting Republican is so important to send the message. Now, there's a bright spot. There's a lot of bright fired Nancy Pelosi once and for all, delivering that Republican majority. And I gotta tell you, National Democrats, they are focused on trying to win back those 5 districts. They're going to spend $100 million on just 5 House races in New York to try to flip them from Republican to Democrat. We are working very hard to support all of my Republican colleagues in the New York delegation and across the country so that we have a Republican Congress ready on day 1 to work with the Republican Senate, which we will flip when we fire Chuck Schumer as the majority leader of the U.S. Senate. The good news is, 10 years later, after we used to be considered a swing district, we are now Trump and Elise country up here, Republican up and down the ballot. That is thanks to you. And Clinton County, I have a big challenge for you. We have seen these changes in New York State. We have seen us winning more and more support for Republican candidates. Clinton County is one of the few counties that in the past few years, in some cases, the county has voted Democrat. I have a challenge for you. I think that this election day, in 33 days, this will be a red county. It will vote for Trump. It will vote for Republicans up and down the ticket. So I am asking all of you to build on this enthusiasm to make sure that Clinton County is red on election day. Because we have a country to save, and it starts with electing President Trump, firing Chuck Schumer, and flipping the Senate, making sure that we hold and grow the House Republican majority, making sure that we send our Republican state senators and Republican assembly members to Albany so that we can first save America, and then 2 years from now, we will save New York. Thank you very much, Clinton County. It's an honor to represent you. I am so grateful for your support. Let's get this done to save America. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Now I'd like to invite a friend of the North Country, Newsmax's Joe Pinion, to share a few words.
Well, it is always great to be here in North Country. Who is enjoying the prime rib? Yes, so for those that don't know, I am Joe Pinion, that crazy kamikaze who quit his job at Newsmax to run for U.S. Senate against Charles Ellis Schumer in 2022. And I promised North Country then that if they were willing to lend their support to our fledgling campaign, to make a statement, to draw a line in the dust that the needs of New York would no longer be neglected, that I would never forget the efforts made on my behalf, and we would keep coming back and keep coming back. We have done, because it has never been more important to understand what is so critical about what it makes North Country so special. Everywhere we look, from Washington, D.C. to Albany here in New York, they have debased our sovereignty. They have debased what it means to be American. They have taken our Constitution and left it in tatters because they are trying to turn America into something it was never intended to be by embracing policies that never worked in the history of the world. And so everyone tells you that this is the most important election of our lifetimes, and it is true. But the question we have to ask ourselves is, why is it true? What exactly is at stake? And for me, when I look at the stakes from a 5,000-foot view and a 30,000-foot view, the answer is clear. That our American inheritance is on the line. That everything that defines North Country, families in places like Clinton County and Franklin County that have been in North Country so long it used to be Canada, that the values that define this special place, they are under attack because the people that hold power in Albany and down in D.C., they have no respect for the people that sit in this room. And so we must send a message that we will not be the generation that allows the flame of liberty to be extinguished on our watch. Because we are at one of those perennial crossroads in this country. You think of those timeless words by one Abraham Lincoln when he gave that Gettysburg Address 77 years ago, our fathers birthed on this continent a new nation. He's talking about an American inheritance. He's talking about this promise that we have made, that every single generation that follows us will be better off than what they actually inherit. And for me, when I look at the current state of affairs, we must realize that we are at another 77 years ago crossroads. You see, back in 1937, there was a man named Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He had just been re-elected to the presidency, and the first act of business for this new, cemented, liberal-leaning majority was to try and pack the Supreme Courts, the Supreme Court packing of 1937. And luckily, we had a citizenry that understood the dangers of that we should not be taking away the guardrails that allow us to make generational progress year after year. And so there is nothing new under the sun, because the bad ideas, they have come back with greater strength, with greater earnestness, with a greater fervent desire to subvert this country that we live. There was another thing that happened in 1937. There was a book that was published, one of my favorite books of all time, by a man named John Steinbeck. It was called Of Mice and Men. It's a story about two men, George, who was a smart man who wasn't educated, and Lenny, who was a challenged man who didn't know his own strength. Two men traveling from state to state, from town to town, from farm to farm, vagabonds trying to claim their American inheritance, trying to make the American dream real for themselves. But everywhere they went, there was Lenny, finding things that he thought were cute and purdy, and he was petting them and killing them. And it didn't matter how much George tried to stop Lenny, he just kept killing the good things in his life. Dog after dog, town after town. And when I think of where we are today in this country, this bipartisan dysfunction that we face, I think of George and Lenny. I think of mice and men. I think of a Republican Party trying earnestly to encourage our neighbors on the other side of the aisle to their better angels, and watching as bit by bit everything they touch, they destroy, they kill, and they leave in tatters. We will not be the generation that allows the American dream to be destroyed on our watch. The North Country will not allow the values of this nation to be destroyed on their watch, and that is why we're here tonight. Not for the chicken, not for the prime rib, but to say with one voice, undeniably, the greatest threat to America is not Donald J. Trump. It is the Democratic Party that has driven us to the brink of World War III. And so these are the issues that we must be taking to the doorstep of every single person that we confront. That it is not about the Haitians eating the cats and eating the dogs. It is about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, who apparently didn't know that the president of Haiti was about to get hit with 12 bullets, 2 to the head and 10 to the body, because they thought that what was happening in Haiti, the end of the corruption, probably wasn't so good for them. probably wasn't in the interest of a party that watched Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton effectively rape and pillage that island for their own personal good. And now we have hundreds of thousands of Haitians here in America, not because Republicans don't want them here, but because Democrats have given them no other choice. When you look across North Country, you don't have to go far to see your American inheritance being forsaken. All you have to do is drive past the stewards. All you have to do is look at all the individuals who know concretely that they can no longer allow their children to go and hang out at the camp, can't allow their children to walk around the property because they don't know what danger lurks in those woods. The notion that you would have to choose between being charged as a criminal for defending life and limb or allowing strangers to camp out on your porch, allow strangers to hide in your vehicles as if they are more entitled to your property than you are. When you have border security telling you that you can't even dig a ditch on your own property because then you have imperiled the lives of the people who have come to this country illegally as their first step on their journey to America on U.S. soil, and yet here we are with the Democratic Party that has bankrupted FEMA to help people that aren't even here legally, while our own Americans are quite literally holding on to everything that has been destroyed in the wake of Hurricane Helene. That is not America. That is not the America that was promised. That is why it is important to keep Clinton County red and ensure that every single Republican up and down the ballot from New York down to Pennsylvania remembers that Donald Trump is the only path that we have in this election. So I want you to understand what we can do here. You heard from Congresswoman Stefanik that Clinton County has this ebb and flow. Sometimes it is red, sometimes it goes a purplish, bluish haze. But if Clinton County is purple, then it just means that perhaps there are some people who have forgotten who they really are. I stand here, Joseph Pinion III, the man who was fortunate enough to be nominated for U.S. Senate by this party, by this county, the first person that looked like me ever nominated for U.S. Senate in the history of New York State, and it was the Republican Party that did that. And yet, at the same time, people forget that there is so much work that we have to do. That there are things that just transcend politics. My father, some of you know, Joseph Pinion Jr., he passed away earlier this year, actually on the night of the Iowa caucus. A man who was born in Louisiana, New Orleans to be specific, turned 18, couldn't register to vote, but could sign up for the United States Army, down in what remained the relics of the Jim Crow South. A man who escaped Hurricane Katrina on the back of a motorboat with the clothes on his back and a can with my grandfather's ashes, because it was the only thing he could grab, the only thing that meant so much to him. My grandfather, Joseph Pinion Sr., a longshoreman, who was able to buy a home in a community where people that looked like us weren't even able to buy a home yet. Because the American dream, in spite of the hatred that lived in some people's hearts, was bigger than that evil. And we have always been able to transcend that pain and that evil, but now we have a different kind of evil. Those who say they want change, those who say they want justice, who have weaponized justice for their own aims, who have taken the letter of the law and they have stretched it beyond credulity. When you look at Jack Smith trying to repackage old crap as new crap, a day after J.D. Vance has wiped the floor with Governor Paw Patrol, because they know for a fact that they have no obligation, no fidelity to truth. Their only obligation is doing everything humanly possible to defeat Donald Trump. You know what we are up against. a time when you could find not a single blacksmith in all of Israel, because the Philistines knew that if you could equip God's chosen people with the tools they needed to thrive, that no weapon formed against them would prosper. And here we are again, a nation founded by God's providence, where individuals understand that they must deprive everyday Americans of the tools they need to remember who they are, that are going to Wikipedia and erasing history, that get on the news with a straight face and try to tell you that Kamala Harris was not the border czar, that she wasn't rated basically a more extreme version of Bernie Sanders by people whose sole job was to tell people who the most liberal senators were. They will lie to you with a straight face to take everything that we hold dear. And so when you hear your neighbors talking about the shards of metal that have ended up in the bales of hay that have destroyed the livestock, when you hear about the people facing the Sophie's choice, do I give up the topsoil on the farm to be able to hold on to the deed? Do I face the reality that I might have to surrender the house that my family made a home for generations? These are the stakes. Our American inheritance is on the line. And if you remember what many people have heard me say before, that letter written by John Adams to his son, John Quincy Adams, the first father-son duo to ascend to the presidency, that powerful letter where he told his son in no uncertain terms, you come into life with advantages, come into life with advantages that will disgrace you if your success is mediocre. This is the advantage. The greatest home field advantage the world has ever seen, the United States of America. And as rockets are being fired into Israel by the leader in state-sponsored terrorism, because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris thought it would be a good job to lift the sanctions, to give them $6 billion in taxpayer funding, to allow them to have Iranian ghost ships ferrying illegal Russian oil from pillar to post, where Russia now imports more crude oil into China than the Saudi Arabians. You have to know this is failure by design. You have to know that these people hate America. You have to know that these people will ask for your vote and then destroy your existence. But we will not live on our knees anymore. As Abraham Lincoln told us, first we pray, then we stand up, then we shall save this country that we love. And so I want to close here because clearly there's gambling that needs to occur. The legal kind, lest, you know, Tish James try to cook up another cockamamie reason to try to put Republicans on trial. But let me just say this. It has been an honor to travel this state on behalf of Chairman Cox to support our candidates up and down the ballot, to remind people that they have a chance to have a choice, that we were a nation founded to escape tyranny of the king, and we should never abide the tyranny of one-party rule. That people like Kathy Hochul, that people like Kamala Harris, that they might check the right boxes, but those boxes are going to lead to a storm of despair. I don't want to hear about the tears of North Country anymore. North Country shall remember who they are. America shall remember who they are. And by the grace of God, by the will of the people, if we remember those timeless words, if my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I shall hear their cries from heaven, forgive their sins, and heal our land. We are called together for such a time as this. We're going to save our state. We're going to re-elect Donald J. Trump. We're going to save this nation. And we're going to hold every single person, including those 51 members of former U.S. intelligence that told us that that laptop was Russian information, what the FBI and UN was not. We will hold them accountable. That is not retribution. That is justice. Justice is coming to America. Republicans are coming back to power. And we shall, once again, have one nation to God. Thank you so much. God bless you. they've also given me double duty here, so forgive me. So we have a special presentation with that. I give you your Board of Elections Commissioner, David.
Well, that was tough to follow. Thanks for that, Joe. Appreciate that. So, as we've heard from the speakers tonight, it's very important to turn the county red. Obviously, one of the biggest ways that we can do that is a strong county committee. And obviously, by what we see here tonight, that's what we have. Part of having a strong county committee is recognizing the hard work that those members do for the committee. As we've heard earlier tonight, we've had some people get some awards. One of the awards introduced last year, the John H. Zerlo Award, that celebrated a Republican that's given their entire life to the Republican Party. This year we wanted to introduce an award that recognized a Republican that not only presents Republican ideals, but also goes out and helps their community. So with that being said, I'm proud to announce that we are introducing the Ronald B. Stafford Community Service Award. Ronald B. Stafford is a true legend of the North Country, a trailblazing state senator from Dannemora who served from 1966 to 2002. Senator Stafford always brought to Albany the mindset that the North Country and its people deserve a strong seat at the table of New York State government. Senator Stafford devoted his political life to ensure that upstate New York had the tools and resources necessary to ensure a thriving economy, as well as giving a voice to the rural people that often felt so disenfranchised. His work led to the creation of tens of thousands of jobs throughout the New York State prison system, and his strong support for the SUNY campus in Plattsburgh led to its multiple expansions throughout the years. Mr. Stafford was also instrumental with his efforts to ensure the 1980 Winter Olympics were hosted by the North Country here in Lake Placid. And now that the world was able to see the true paradise of this place that we call home, overall, Senator Stafford was a true statesman. As we thrive to be like him, he's a true reflection of what we thrive to all be as Republicans. To honor this legacy, we would like to recognize an outstanding Republican who not only works hard for the ideals of the Republican Party, but also for the strong betterment of their community outside of the political realm. It is with esteemed privilege that the Republican Committee announces that Ms. Jerica Manning is the 2024 inaugural recipient of the Ronald B. Stafford Committee. Jerica Manning studied in Montreal and graduated with degrees in human relations and youth and adult intervention. After graduating college, she started her own successful business, J.M. Wood Logistics LLC. Jerica has been successfully conducting business with local loggers since 2018. Being bilingual gives her a unique ability to communicate not only with her own community, but also with her neighbors across the Canadian border, allowing expansion of our markets while also supporting our community's development. Quickly, her passion for politics has grown, and she began to learn the intricacies and vulnerabilities of local government. Serving as secretary of the Clinton County Republican Committee, her intellect and determination was noticed, and she was soon elected as chairwoman of the Clinton County Republican Committee. Since then, she has advocated and dedicated efforts to this political enrichment of our community. A priority for Jerica is thanking our nation's veterans, and as the executive assistant of the North Country Honor Flight, she is able to honor our local heroes. She is equally passionate about protecting constitutional rights and those heroes that have fought to defend it. Jerica spends many hours organizing fundraisers and hosting events to support North Country Honor Flight and local charities like Jane's Fight Fund for cancer research. Jerica is also a proud co-founder of the Ladies of Liberty U.S. LTD, a women's-only shooting club that was established in 2022. Jerica is passionate about revitalizing the Republican Party in Clinton County and encouraging new young Republicans to understand the importance of political involvement at all levels of government. It is her mission to make a positive impact in the North Country. Her volunteer efforts and dedication are a testament to her commitment to our area. It is a privilege to dedicate this inaugural Ronald B. Stafford Community Service Award to Jericho.
It must have taken a lot of effort to get that by me. This is such a surprise, and I really appreciate, goodness gracious, really appreciate this. I love what I do. I love what I do with the Republican Party, and I especially love what I do with the Country Honor Flight. Thank you all so much. I'd like to invite friend Bruno up. If you all saw that 22 rifle, we are going to have a real live auction right now before I invite Michael Henry up to the stage.
That means it's time to get your wallets out, folks.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as everyone just heard, we're going to do a quick one-item drawing for auction. These proceeds will be going back to this beautiful, each and every one of you that are here, Clinton County Republican Committee, will be the recipients of whoever decides to be the high bidder. It's all I want to see is raising the hands. If I could get a couple people up here with me, Jericho, just to keep an eye on hands, would be great. This rifle that we have tonight that's going to be auctioned off is a Clinton County, New York engraved .22 long Henry rifle. In honor of Clinton County's rich historical legacy, we are proud to present the Clinton County, New York Limited Historical Edition rifle. This here, ladies and gentlemen, is engraved on both sides. And yes, it is empty. Nothing in it. Anybody can take a look. Jericho, how is this working as far as the buyer? Do they have to go through? Okay. You will not? Okay. Mr. Luck right here says he can take care of all the paperwork this evening right here. He's at the first table right here if you want to come up and see him. If you are the high bidder, he'll go through everything with you so you can take this rifle home. On this rifle, there is a couple of beautiful engraved sides if you haven't had a chance to look at it. It's produced by Henry Rifles. As you know, they are American made. Finely detailed engraving to celebrate the history of Clinton County, which includes the McDonough Monument, a large North Country buck, sail ship on Lake Champlain, the Plattsburgh train station, and also a lake house. The auction includes the exclusive rights to buy 2 other rifles in this series if you want them. You speak with Jericho after, and she will set the price with you on the other 2 if you want the 3 complete series sets. There will only be 50 Clinton County, New York rifle sets ever produced by the Historical Armory. At this time, we're going to proudly say River Bend Gunworks, right here in Hank Wilson Road, has donated this to us. Thank you. Okay, now the fun part. Let's get this thing started right now. Who's going to start me off with $250? Let's get it now one time on 4,000. 4,000 and 4,500. 4,500 over here now. 4,500 over here now. 4,000 now. It's going to be 500. Now it's going to be 500. Once. Twice. $4,000.
So you went to school in Montreal, and had no idea you were a border cross. The things you learned about me. So my name is Michael Henry, and I needed a hobby in 2022 and decided to run against Letitia James, and we finished with 46% of the vote. The reason we're going to start early this time around is because the New York State now has a matching funds program, so any donation from a New Yorker between $5 and $250 is matched by the state of New York 6-to-1. Now, what I would say is, and what's really struck me, is how much things have changed in this state in 2 years. I would have never thought 2 years ago that crime would be worse, the drug crisis would be worse, we have 150,000 to 200,000 migrants in this state, and Clinton County matters. And I'm going to tell you how I know Clinton County matters. Because in 2018, Letitia James won Clinton County, and in 2022, we cleaned her clock in Clinton County. So we're going to do it again in another 2 years. Now, everybody sees Letitia James, and everybody has this fear of her, but she's nothing but a political bully. And when you look at what she's done, just even recently, when we finished the election, we actually found out that she was harboring her chief of staff as a sexual predator for over a decade. And a lot of Republicans said to me, don't do anything, let it go. And we wrote an op-ed in the New York Post, and Elise Stefanik was actually one of the few other Republicans that stood up on this issue. And Letitia James, chief of staff, not only is no longer employed in state government, her and her chief of staff are both being sued personally by the same attorney who was suing Harvey Weinstein and Diddy. Now, in New York, we have a situation right now that we have to fix. There's a lot that's going on here. And as we look through this state has everything we need. We have 100 years of energy under our feet in the southern tier. We have lakes, we have international borders, we have vineyards, we have the financial epicenter of the world in New York City. But the one thing we don't have is quality leadership. This is a state that's nominated and elected 11 vice presidents and 7 presidents. As a matter of fact, there's only been one president, and that might change in November, who served 2 terms, but they weren't consecutive. And he's a former governor of the state of New York named Grover Cleveland. We in this state have the opportunity to change the way things are being done. And that starts at the top, with getting rid of Kathy Hochul and getting rid of Letitia James once and for all. You know, I practice in New York City, and one day we were in court. There was 4 attorneys, and we're all arguing a case, and then all of a sudden you hear a big boom, door opens, and all you hear is, this is a rigged system, this is a judge who's obsessed with Trump, and Donald Trump is going off in the hallway. And everybody in the courtroom is hysterical laughing. And then I walk outside, and I see Eric Trump walking with his head down. You know, another attorney turned to me and said, Tish James has gone after Don Jr., she's gone after Ivanka, she's gone after Even the mob doesn't go after your children. And I learned something running for office. There's two types of people that run for office. There's politicians and there's public servants. And we have way too many politicians and not enough public servants. And Letitia James is the symbol of everything wrong with our politics. Even recently, when Hamas protesters took over Columbia University's campus, she wouldn't speak up. So I released her financial disclosures onto the internet, which showed she's a professor at Columbia University. Her response was, well, I'm probably going to still take my $20,000 a year for Columbia University. This doesn't have to be like this. And I know what everybody says right now, if we don't win this election, America's done. If we don't win this election, we don't have a country. Where are we going to go? We're not going anywhere. So the only thing we can do is stay here and fight the good fight. And that good fight starts on October 26th, the first day of early voting. And this is important. When you get the first day you can vote early, you get 3 to 5 of your friends to go in and make sure you vote no on Prop 1. And then every day of early voting, you have to push people to vote, especially against this proposition. Because we have a chance to fix this country. Ronald Reagan said it best. There's nothing wrong with America that can't be fixed by what's right with America. But I don't want to live in a country who turns around and tells people in North Carolina who are citizens that we don't have the money to save them when we're rolling out a red carpet for a bunch of unvetted migrants who we don't even know where the hell they come from. And this is important. The best nation, the very best nation of all, is a donation. So go to henryfordnewyork.com when you have the chance. And now what I want to do is introduce somebody who many people call a patriot. I think Tom Homan's more than a patriot. I think he's a hero. You know, North Country's in the midst of a crisis at the border. We have a lot of people exploiting the Canadian tourist visa system. And people are coming in, they're coming onto your property, they're coming into your homes, they're coming into your farms. I can tell you as somebody who knows how the immigration system works a bit, I would tell you at least 95% of the people that have crossed the border during the Biden administration have no business trying to claim asylum in this country. And Tom Homan is one of your own. He comes from North Country. He was a local police officer, and he worked his way up. He's the only person, I believe, that's ever run ICE who actually started at the entry level and worked his way to the top of the agency. And what we need is people that are fearless. And I'm going to introduce Tom, but I'm going to thank him on behalf of all of us. I know over the years the sacrifices you've had to make. I know the risks you and your family have had to deal with. But I know at the end of the day, you know, just like I know when we're doing this, it's all worth it. Because if we don't do this, we don't have a country. But now I'd like to get a huge round of applause for North Country's own Tom Homan.
First of all, who opened the rifle? Show yourself. Who was it? Who won the rifle? All right, you're going to talk later. Honestly, I'm glad I'm not saying all the rest of it. That's great. But, okay, two things. Jerica messed up on. Number one, she gave me a microphone because I'm pissed off. I'll let her listen. And she put a pastor front and center. What the hell is going on? So you either need to forgive me in advance or leave, one or the other. Look, I'm serious. If I offend anybody tonight, I simply don't give a shit. Because I don't. Because we're in a position now where the truth needs to be told, because you're not going to hear the truth from this administration. And look, I'm going to tell you a quick story real quick. Everybody asks me, you know, how do you get in trouble? I'll tell you a story. I was 30 commanded us during the election. I was convinced Hillary Clinton was going to win. I was convinced. I think most of the country was. And after spending 8 years under Barack Obama, I told my wife, I'm not doing this. So before the election, I announced my retirement. I signed a contract with a big company making about 3 times as much money as the ICE Director, right? So I said, okay, it's a good move. No more death threats for my family, no more security details constantly surrounding my family. So I did it. So the night of the election, I wake up the following morning, my wife wakes me up, she goes, Trump won. Now what do you want to do? But I've already signed a contract with this company. I gave them 120 days notice. The 30 command ICE runs the deportation operation. It's a very hard job, an unpopular job. Like I said, death threats all the time. So I gave them 120 days notice to find someone to replace me. So in January, I retired. I had a retirement ceremony. There was a whole bunch of people there. It was the saddest day of my life. Because when you carry a badge and gun for 3.5 decades, and you guys know, I met a lot of law enforcement officers in there. When you wear a badge and gun for many years, it's really who you become. And I knew that day I was hanging it up. That was just going to be a civilian. This is on a Friday. I knew when I leave that building Friday night, I'm a civilian. So at the end of the ceremony, my chief of staff comes up and he says, you got an emergency phone call in your office. My empty office, because all my shit's already boxed up sitting at home. Because I'm starting a new job on Monday. So I said, okay, who is it? She goes, it's your office. I can't say, but it's in the office. So I go to my empty office, I pick the phone, and the Secretary of Homeland Security, John Kelly. He goes, Tom, I know this is bad timing, but President Trump just called me and wants you to be the director of ICE. And I said, bad timing, sir, I just retired. He goes, no, you didn't. The paper's on my desk, I haven't signed it. This is a true story. So I said, well, sir, I've already signed a contract with this company. I don't know what my legal obligations are. I need to talk to my family because, my wife and my kid, I moved them 7, 8 times. We had death threats against my wife and child. We got pictures of my child walking to school, saying they're going to kill him. So my family went through hell. And I said, well, I need to talk to my family. I need to see if I can get out of this contract. Can I have it till Monday? And he goes, okay, Monday morning, 0600, I'm going to call you and leave an answer. And he said, well, before you hang up the phone, let me leave you with this thought. And I'll tell you word for word. He goes, Tom, the President of the United States is asking you, a career law enforcement officer, to serve the country a little bit longer. Tom, the President needs your help. I'll call you on Monday. So going home with that, right? So on the way home, my wife said, what was the phone call about? I told her. She goes, hell no. You ain't doing it. I said, babe, it's the President of the United States. She goes, I don't give a shit. I don't like it. And she did. But she is his biggest fan now because she saw what that man did for this country. She loves him now, right? So, of course, Sunday night, I'm laying in bed, and my wife said, what are you going to do? I said, what do you think I'm going to do? I called the company to let me out, and I can't say no. And she goes, I know you can, and I support it, and I went back. So the next day, when John Kelly called us, okay, let's do this. Okay, shut your phone off because you're going to get the White House will announce it in about an hour, and they did. And I got like hundreds of phone calls. Guess from where? The North Country. A lot of folks called. The first ones that called were from up here. So next day I showed up at the ICE office to the amazement of hundreds of employees. They gave me great gifts just a few days ago that I was leaving. I walked into the director's office. There's 3 attorneys here from the ethics division. Said, Mr. Owen, we have a list of every gift you got. You need to return those gifts within 48 hours because they all work for you again. And they said, and your wife got a gift certificate for $500, you'll need that back. And I told the guy, I said, look, I'll write you a check for $500. The last time I was asked my wife for that gift certificate back, she's already pissed off and staying. And the next morning, I'm on Air Force One, the greatest president of my lifetime, Donald Trump. This building, and I run into a guy, when I joined the Border Patrol in 1984, there's a guy in this room who was my first journeyman. So he is responsible for the mess I am today. Dennis Judy, we just stand up and say hi to everybody. That is my journeyman in the United States Border Patrol. If you want any dirt on him, come see me afterwards. I got plenty. For the men and women, I know I meant lobby. If you if you wore a badge and gun, or if you're in the military, would you stand up, please? Do me an honor, stand up. Military, badge and gun. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the finest 1% this country has. Thank you for your service. So I got a 5:30 a.m. flight out of Syracuse. You know, I got a lake house. I grew up in Carthage, New York, which is down by Fort Drum. I own a lake house in Sackett Harbor, where my beautiful wife is tonight. And I always thought I was in the North Country when I was in Sackett Harbor. Then when I took this drive today, I was like, Jared, what the hell did you do to me? I'm in the car 3 hours, keep heading north. It's beautiful, and I got here in daylight, so I see the changing colors. What a beautiful place. This is God's country for sure. So you guys are lucky. And you're lucky to have Elise Stefanik as your Congresswoman. She was a little bit too polite because, you know, Governor Hochul sucks. That's just the bottom line. She's probably the worst governor in history, U.S. governors in the state. Then I got Joe Pinion, who speaks better than anybody. Joe gives a great speech. That ain't me. So I say what I say. If I offend you, that's just the way it's going to be, because I'm a redneck and Joe grew up milking cows like a lot of you in this room did. So I'm home. I'm home. So let me start out with one thing. I hopped on an airplane in Dallas 2 weeks ago, and I got on a plane first on a concierge escape at 1.5 million miles. I'm on the road 27 days a month for the Trump campaign. The guy's killing me, but I love it. So anyways, I'm hopping on a plane in Dallas. I get on a plane first, and the captain meets me in the galley, you know, where the kitchen is. He goes, I knew that was you, Tom Homan. I love what you do on Fox News, and I love the President Trump. He goes, I got a question. Me and my wife always wondered. I said, what's that? He goes, every time I see you on Fox, I've seen you testify in Congress. Why are you always pissed off? And I said, because I am pissed off. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm serious. I wake up every morning, I make up every morning pissed off. Because President Trump had this lockdown, right? I worked for 6 presidents, starting with Ronald Reagan. Every president I've worked for took steps to secure the border. Even President Obama did. You can't deny that. No one did more than President Trump. President Trump's a badass president. He did more than anyone. But every president I worked for took steps to secure the border because they understood you can't have national security, strong national security, if you don't have border security. We need to know what's coming in, who's coming in, where's coming in, why it's coming in. We need to know these things to protect our national security. No one did more than President Trump. President Trump had illegal immigration at a 45-year low. And at the highest point, he had illegal immigration down to 91%. All right? Joe Biden is the first president ever in the history of this nation who came into office and unsecured the border on purpose. I mean, who the hell does it? What president says, I want more illegal immigration, I want more illegal drugs, I want the cartels to make more money, I want more known suspected terrorists across the border, I want more women and children sex trafficked. Yeah, that's what I want. President, what they're doing, this isn't mismanagement, this isn't incompetence, this is by design. They want to open borders, they want to turn over, they want to change the electorate. And you know, they perceive our future political benefit from releasing millions of people in this country who they think shall be future Democratic voters. But they don't even have to get there to vote. Because President Biden also overturned the Trump census rule, which millions of people in sanctuary cities will be counted in the next census. What does that mean? More seats in the House for the Democrats. They'll own Congress forever. They sold this country out for future political power. And in my world, that's treasonous. And they need to help Congress. Kamala Harris is almost as dumb as AOC, but not quite. She's in the same grade. Me and AOC, I testified one time in front of AOC, and you know, she's got to be the dumbest congresswoman ever elected to the U.S. Congress. Because I had to explain to her, it's actually against the law to enter the country illegally. She didn't know that. And of course, you know, you can see it on YouTube. More people know me from that than do as ICE Director. But Kamala Harris is around the country now saying Donald Trump shut down legislation that could have secured the border. That is bullshit. So let me tell you what the truth is. 6 months before that Senate bill was even talked about, he had H.R. 2. H.R. 2 passed the House. H.R. 2 would have secured the border. How do I know? To help write it. And most of the things in that bill were Trump policies. The Remain in Mexico program, a game changer. The Remain in Mexico is a game changer. You can still claim asylum, but you're going to wait in Mexico and not be called and released to the United States. After about 6 weeks, they stopped coming because they realized I'm not going to give the cartels all my money to sit in Mexico. So they stopped coming. They can still claim asylum, but they're going to wait in Mexico. Kamala Harris says, no, the Senate bill would fix the border. No. Obviously, she either didn't read the bill or she's just plain stupid because the Senate bill will not work. So what the Democrats did was this. H.R. 2 went to the Senate. Chuck Schumer wouldn't put on the floor for debate. He wouldn't even put it for a vote. It's still on his desk today. Well, they decided, okay, look at the polls. The polls are really bad. Immigration is number one. Let's write a bill. We'll get some moron Republican senators to agree to this. Let's create a bill that we know won't pass. And when it doesn't pass, we can blame Republicans. Now it's their problem. It's their fault. Senator Langford, who will co-write that bill, Republican Senator out of Oklahoma, he's not very smart. Matter of fact, he called me and 2 retired chief patrol agents, the chief patrol agent that controlled the entire 20,000 men and women in Border Patrol, 2 of them retired. We sat in the conference room and listened to the sound of the Senate bill. Will you support it, Homan? Hell no. The bill sucks. Why would you even put your name on that bill? This is a conversation. Terrible bill. Can't support it. What you ought to do as a Republican senator is demand Chuck Schumer put the H.R. 2 bill on the floor because that will work. This bill is going to allow 4,000 to 5,000 illegal entries a day. Codify that in federal law. 4,000 to 5,000 a day until they took any action. And that had to happen for several weeks in a row. One day they don't get it, all of a sudden you start over again. They would have put in federal law, we're okay with 4,000 to 5,000 a day, which is 1.8 million a year. I'm not okay with it. Why is it 4,000 to 5,000? Why not 1? Why not 1, right? And when it's 5,001, you think that he only comes to the border to you're 5,001, you can't come in. Think he's going back? No, he's going to be a gobbler. He's just not going to turn himself in. The bill's terrible. And the worst part about the bill, it did nothing about child trafficking, child sex trafficking. Over 500,000 children have been smuggled in this country in this administration. Over 500,000 kids separated from their families, put in the hands of criminal cartels to be smuggled across the border. Who knows what happened to them during that journey? 148,000 of them that they released to so-called sponsors, they can't find them. They can't find the sponsors. I guarantee you, based on my 3.5 decades, these children are in forced labor, or they're in a forced sexual situation, either in child pornography or in the sex trade. I've investigated this for 3.5 decades, I'm telling you. Not every one of them, but many of them are living like a hell. Matter of fact, ICE, the agency I used to run, has already opened up 4 investigations, finding these young children cleaning up entrails in a meatpacking plant in the midnight shift. And in the Senate bill, there's a carve-out, 4,000 to 5,000 a day, and doesn't count children. There's no limit on children. Children keep coming. They won't be counted toward the end. So that's just going to entice more child trafficking. How dare they leave that out and not just child trafficking? It would have given the NGOs billions of dollars. It would have given money to sanctuary cities. It wouldn't fix it. Anybody that thinks that to fix the border is absolutely a moron. Of course, Kamala Harris thinks it's going to fix the border. That's what she's saying. Look, I was asked the other day in the show, that says, why do you think, 6 months ago, everybody thought Kamala Harris was a joke. Now they think she's the next Margaret Thatcher for some reason. And why do millions of people support Kamala Harris? I'll tell you one reason. Because they hate Trump more than they love this country. Because they're willing to put this person as the CEO of the greatest nation on earth. The border situation, I grew up here, not this far north, I grew up in Carthage, Lake Ontario, St. Lawrence River. This is holy shit, you're way up here. I look at the numbers up there, and it's extraordinary, the crossings up there. And I know, Dennis, when you came up here in 1985, you weren't working this hard. As a matter of fact, get ready to come back. We're going to hire more retarded border agents back to help with the biggest deportation operation in history of the nation. might have to drop a few pounds, but you come back. We'll get you in uniform either way. Look, what's happening on the border, you need to understand, it's just not an immigration issue anymore. I don't care what your opinion is on illegal immigration, but when you cause a crisis this big, that causes a majority of border places on the southwest border to be pulled off the line, to change diapers, make sandwiches, make baby formula, make hospital runs, make bus runs, make airport runs. Majority of ICE border places off the border, that's when the criminal cartels move the fentanyl to kill 250,000 Americans. That's when the 600% of sex trafficking women and children happen. That's when you got a record number of people on the terrorist watch list. Just on the southwest border, just shy of 400 in less than 4 years. Under President Trump, we had 11. 11. They got just shy of 400. Just on the southwest border. Northern border, over the last 4 years, has almost twice as many as that. So what this immigration crisis they caused on purpose, the bad things happen because the criminal cartels, especially on the Mexican border, they control our southern border. The greatest nation on earth does not have operational control of our southern border. We want operational control of the northern border. Criminal cartels do. They decide who comes across, when they come across, and where they cross. On the southwest border, most agents are off the lines. What happens? They take half of agents from up here and send them down there. Matter of fact, I talked to the PIC in Detroit. Detroit said we got a lot of people on the southwest border. The half that remain in Detroit are processing illegal aliens caught in Mexico virtually. So there's virtually no lake patrol, no road patrol, no river patrol. So when you cause a crisis this big, it takes all these agents off the line, and the criminal cartels say, well, let's move a group of 100 family units over here. Then what's ever left on the line will go to that area to deal with that humanitarian crisis. Then we can move all the fentanyl we want, all the gang members, all the people carrying drugs, all the gang members, because they don't want to get caught. Here's what you need to ask yourself. This is why I call this the biggest national security vulnerability in the history of this nation, even worse than 9/11, is because when Border Patrol's arrested people, since Biden's been president, they've arrested people from 180 different countries. That's almost every country on the planet. Some of these countries are sponsored with terror. I just told you they arrested just short of 400 on the southern border. We got 2.2 million gotaways. You gotta ask yourself, why did 2 million people pay more to get away? Why did they pay less? Because you pay the cartels 2 amounts of money on the south border, you pay them 1 amount to get to the border. Their job's over. See a green uniform, turn yourself in, their job's over. But if you want to get away, if you want to get to New York City, or you want to get to Chicago and not get arrested, you pay a hell of a lot more. You're a Chinese national, you're paying over $30,000. So why do they pay more to get away? Why do they pay less to be released within 24 hours, get a free airline ticket to the city of their choice, get a free hotel room, get 3 meals a day, get free medical care, and work authorization in 120 days? Why would you not pay less to take advantage of that free giveaway? Ask yourself that. I'll tell you why, because they don't want to be vetted, they want to be fingerprinted. That should scare the hell out of everybody in this room. It scares the hell out of me. There's a reason they want to be arrested. There's a reason they want to be vetted or fingerprinted. And look, after 9/11, I was in D.C. We created all these different databases. Okay, we can't, these people came in on visas and they flew over here. We can't have that anymore. So let's create these programs. You got the TSA no-fly list. You got the FBI screening database. You got the DOD intel database. You got the visa security program, which I used to run. We have prevented thousands of people from getting a visa coming to this country when we found derogatory information in the background. Worked pretty good. All these programs have worked pretty good in the last 20 years. But what terrorist today is going to apply for a visa or airline ticket, knowing there's some sort of vetting procedure going on, when they simply go to Mexico, pay the cartels extra money, and be a cowboy? I'm telling you folks, even the FBI Director, Christopher Wray, who I have zero respect in, even he agrees with me that southwest border is a terrorist vulnerability, and we know terrorists that cross this border. I don't know how many, but someday we'll find out. It's a bad day for America. And when it does happen, I want President Trump to be sitting in the Oval Office, not this idiot that's running. You know, I spoke at the RNC, Trump asked me, will you speak at the RNC, and I agreed to do it. And for those that saw me, I wasn't wasn't feeling any pain, because I was on more painkillers that day than you can shake a stick at. I actually threw my back out that morning, so I was feeling pretty good when I finally got to that stage. And when you do speak at the RNC, I've never done it before, you got to use a teleprompter. You're giving me 4 minutes. I don't need a teleprompter, believe me, I can speak 4 minutes staying in my head. No. You got pre-approved talking points, every word needs to be in a teleprompter, you need to follow every word exact. And if you don't, we'll shut you down. Yeah, whatever. So then I gave him 4 minutes. I practiced, that was actually 4 minutes and 3 seconds. So again, just before I hit the stage, I met a lady backstage who was going to speak later. And she broke my heart. Because she came up to me, she was a mess. I could tell her heart was broken when she walked up to me. She had a son who was in college, and he wasn't doing very good. And her and her husband said, unless you get a certain grade in your finals, we're not paying for college anymore, you won't come home. So that young man took a pill that night to stay up. Little did he know, it was laced with fentanyl, he died. So here's a mom and dad who are living a life of hell. I can't imagine what they're going through. So she was telling me the story, and she was just a mess when she's telling me. And my heart broke. I even started crying a little bit. I mean, it's just, you know, I said, Dad, parents should never bury their children. That's not the way it should be. Anyway, so she got me fired up. So I went up on stage, and I did my talk. I was looking at the teleprompter, I did my thing, right? Then I went off script. So I gave a warning. I said, warning for those millions of illegal aliens that were released in the country illegally by the Biden administration, you better start packing now. Massive applause. Then I added this. I says, I got another message to the criminal cartels in Mexico. When President Trump becomes president, he's going to designate you terrorist organizations. He's going to wipe you off the face of the earth. I got the same response. Of course, teleprompter Lincoln. Then I went back to my speech, I got off the stage, and the guy running the teleprompter, I told you did it anyways. I said, I do that too. Well, you know, you can't do that. I said, look, I'm finished. I'm working. You can't do that. And just then, President Trump walked up. Said, hey, great, I love it. Why pushing another time? It's great. I looked at the guy and said, you want to tell the president you got a problem there? Nope. You know, the next day I was hurting really bad. The president knew, I had doctors in my hotel room that day because I wasn't even walking that morning. I could not walk. I slipped in the shower, that's what happened. I crawled to bed. Anyway, they sent doctors in my room, got me going. I was able to get to the stage. You know, the next day the president did, he got me a private jet to take me home because, you know, I wasn't feeling good and I couldn't get on a commercial flight. I couldn't drive my rental car back. Someone came, got my rental car, returned it. I got to a private airport, got a private jet. And President Trump, that's just the type of guy he is. He's a great guy. You know, Congressman J. Paul couldn't get me on the stage. She gabbled the shit out of me. She couldn't get me off, so good luck. You know, my wife asks me all the time, she'll come with me tonight. I got 2 Italian masters, and they'll tear the house apart if someone's not there. If someone's not there for 6 hours, you know, these dogs eat about 600 pounds. I got 2 of them, they're both females, and one's Rashida and one's to leave. Think I'm joking? No. So I wish you could be here tonight, but she said something to me the other day. She walked up to me, and I told her I was coming to do this, upstate New York. So I came up a couple days early because I'm on a bull hunt. And of course, 10 minutes in the woods, I stepped in the hole and hurt my knee, so that's why I was crawling up the stage here. I come home in 20 minutes, my wife says, did you get something? I said, a bad knee. So and anyways, she read a hit piece on me. There's hit pieces on me every day. Go to Google me, you know, I'm a racist, I'm a white nationalist. So she said, someone did a hit piece on me, look at this. I looked at it. I said, yeah. She goes, doesn't it bother you that a big part of this country hates your guts? Not a bit. It doesn't. I don't give a shit. You know the way they cancel you? They cancel you when you let them get to you. I don't care what people think of me. I really don't. I don't care what you all think of me. I'm going to say what I know. And I'm not going to pull back punches. Everything I say, I mean. I did an event in Washington, D.C., and this was the hippies on. Homan said on stage that he got a Washington Post did a story on me 4 years ago, Washington Post. My wife come running down my office in my home. She goes, look at this hippies from Washington Post. The first line of the story says, is about me with Trump. Tom Homan deports people, and he's really good at it. I told my wife, a hippies, carve it out, put it in a frame, and it's on my office wall today. So I made a national conservative seminar in Washington, D.C. I went and spoke, and I told that story. I said, I got to hang it on my wall. And you know what? They ain't seen shit yet. Wait till January 2025, they want to see how much. Hey, you're damn right. So, the newspaper, New York Times, they called and said, we're going to do a story on you. We're trying to verify some facts here. I said, okay, what are you going to do? Did you make the statement that they haven't seen shit yet? And you're going to bring more people? I said it, I meant it, I'm going to do it. Any other questions? Then they did another story saying, well, we need to know how many times, you've been to Mar-a-Lago at least 3 times since President Trump was out of office. I said, you guys must be really hurt for stories. I mean, what's the basis of that story? Well, everybody's in this administration seems to be going to Mar-a-Lago an awful lot. Mar-a-Lago makes a lot of money on these events, so we're just trying to verify the story. Have you been to Mar-a-Lago 3 times? I said, no, I've been there 17 times. It's print day. So that's where they cancel you. They write bad stories and they think you're going to go away and hide. Actually, I'm tired. I told you earlier, I travel 27 days a month, mostly for the campaign. And some days I wake up and I'm tired, and I see my wife 1 weekend every 6 or 8, 7 weeks. And I'm up here for 2 days, and where am I? I'm up here, Michigan seconds. You cut my mic? Anyways, I got to train of thought. But you know what fires me up? When I read a bad story. That just throws gas on my fire. So I gave a speech the other day in Iowa, the Iowa State dinner. Well over 1,000 people, and there was media in the back room, and I even begged them. I said, look, I know there's media back there. Please write a bad story about me. Call me a name, because I'm tired, and when I read that, I'm going to be full of piss and vinegar again. I'm ready to go, so please do that. Because they can't cancel you if you don't give a shit. They can't cancel you if you tell the truth. And all the times on Fox News, I always say, this is what's happening, and this is what's going to happen. I dare anybody, I tell the media that, I dare you to pull up every interview on Fox News where I said something's going to happen, and it didn't. Because you're not going to find it. So they're not going to shut me up. All the death threats, and President Trump, he calls me out almost every rally, and I was with him last week. He said, that cause you a problem? I said, well, yeah, death threats start, adding up. Do you want me to stop? I said, hell no, I'm going to stop. Because the thought, the people that hate me and make death threats, the thought that I get to live in their minds rent-free is kind of cool. It's cool. So I love it. And I know when I go back, they'll be hating on me again. Death threats will pile up. The body simply don't give a shit. I knew President Trump was coming back before anybody. True story. You called me up one day and says, hey, I'm doing an event in Las Vegas, Nevada. Would you want to support the sheriff who's running for Attorney General? Somebody who's running for governor. I forget their name. You come, because they're both law enforcement. One's the DA and one's the sheriff. You come as a cop. You come and help me at this event and endorse it. So, of course, I did a 411 on them. I thought they were great. So I went to Las Vegas after the event. We went to the Trump Hotel, and I was eating dinner with the president. It was me, the president, and the guy from Pawn Stars, Rick, he was there. So Trump looks at me and says, Tom, Rick Harrison, that's it. He says, Tom, I'm thinking about coming back. I said, great. If I come back, you come back. I said, Mr. President, I'll come back for free. I'm so pissed off, you don't have to pay me. So let me say one more thing, Brandon. Kamala Harris, and I agree with everybody talking tonight, you need to get to the voting booth, you need to take 10 people with you because we need to overwhelm the vote. So even if they decide to cheat, he's not going to get it. I personally think President Trump's going to win. Because, folks, what they did just with immigration and the border, and I told President Trump, it's going to take 10 years to fix this, right? I mean, I can secure the border in 90 days. We can lock it down. We already proved we can do it. We just do it again. If Mexico don't want to help, then he'll do what he did in Mexico. He'll threaten them with billions of dollars of tariff, they don't have to help us. But it's going to take a decade to fix it. But if we don't win this one, we're never going to fix it. Too many of them. Too many of them. I mean, you're not going to be able to fix it. And, you know, one guy can fix it. One guy proved he can fix it. That's President Trump. President Trump is one badass president. I remember I went to New York City. I'm going to tell another story. I went to New York City. We just did Operation Matador. Matador was a gang operation we did in New York City. I was ICE Director. We arrested just short of 500 gang members. So President Trump said, hey, Homan, let's go to a press conference. So we went up there and flew up in the Air Force One. We did a press conference. And I kind of pissed the president off. I did something I probably shouldn't have. So we're sitting there in the news conference, and the president was talking about MS-13. And Nancy Pelosi had an ape shit about this. You know, President Trump was saying people are animals. Animals. And then the reporter comes to me, Mr. Homan, do you agree with President Trump? I said, no. I don't know what the president has against animals. He wasn't happy. Because animals kill to survive, MS-13 kills for pleasure. So on the way home, Secret Service agent comes back and says, Mr. Trump, I'd like to see his office. He says, you always say cool shit. He goes, and Steve Miller stayed there. He goes, Steve, how come I never got cool shit to say? Homan, the other day you're on TV and you said when MS-13 were making threats, you said, I don't care because my gang's bigger than their gang. I got 20,000 men and women carrying back the gun. Steve had to talk to him a little bit more in the speeches. But another great guy. Look, men and women of the Border Patrol, I love you. I started my career in the Border Patrol. I was the first director of ICE that actually came up through the ranks. My proudest achievement in my entire career is that I was the first director of ICE who actually came up through the ranks. I started the Border Patrol, became a special agent, and climbed that ladder one rung at a time, and President Trump made me the director. And that was my proudest achievement, but I never forgot what it's like to wear that green uniform. You got a lot of green uniforms up here. Please, if you know them, thank them. You got this administration hates them. I mean, you got the president, the secretary Mayorkas, who's a piece of garbage, should have been impeached 6 months after he got the job. They stood at the White House podium. Let's not forget this. They stood at the White House podium and called the men of the Horse Patrol racist for whipping the black people. Let's be clear, when that video came out, I was sitting in my living room, I watched it, and I said, great job. Because the Horse Patrol did exactly as they were trained to do. The horses did exactly as they were trained to do. No different than the horses in Times Square and crowd control. Then next thing you know, they're calling them racist. Kamala Harris conjures up images of slavery. I mean, are you kidding me? The only people that did anything wrong that day were the Haitian illegal aliens who entered the country illegally, which is a crime, ignored federal commands, which is a felony, but no one talked that Haitians did anything wrong. It was the men in the Border Patrol. And I know some Border Patrol there, maybe you know them, I do, I met them. Their wives and children were bullied in schools and churches. Their dad was a racist. Their careers will never be the same. They're still not back to full duty. They're trying to reprimand them that, well, you said a bad word and you were a little aggressive. Because they're trying to save their ass because they know the investigation came back and said they did nothing wrong. That's what the investigation proved. But they're going to try to get them on something to save face. Let's not forget this. The men and women of the Border Patrol, for you guys in this room, since this administration power, the CBP itself with OFO and the Border Patrol lost 40 people to suicide. Border Patrol has the highest percentage of suicides than any other federal, state, or local law enforcement agency in the world. Why is that? I'm not saying the out-of-control border made them take their own lives, but whatever internal struggles they were having Giving CPR to a baby certainly isn't helping. Talking to young girls who've been raped multiple times by the cartels isn't helping. They've been put in a bad position. And men and women border children, no morale even exists on the southwest border. I'm sure the northern border, the morale is bad too, but you know what? These men and women still traffic country. They put on the Kevlar vest and serve this nation, even though they're not allowed to do the job they want to do. But I tell you what, hold tight, because you're going to get to do that job after January 25. You're going to do that job. I promise you. I'll leave it at this. I want to tell you a story. I want one thing to happen tonight. I want you to leave pissed off too. Or I want to break your heart. Because I can sit here and tell you tragic stories I've seen during my entire career. Mostly as a special agent. I was down at Brooks County, Texas, months ago, and met with a Democratic sheriff named Benny Martinez. Democrat, stone cold Democrat sheriff. I was on patrol with him, and in 4 hours, we found 2 dead bodies. And I asked him, is this normal? He says, yeah, I got 6 deputies, and they're not deputies anymore. We're the morgue. They find so many dead bodies, they already found 100 in this county alone that year. And they had Governor Abbott had to buy a refrigerator truck because the morgue was full. They were putting these people in a refrigerator truck to keep them. True story. He introduced me to a doctor down there. And I talked to the doctor, and let me tell you the story the doctor related to me. This doctor down the border. There was a family, a husband, a wife, and a 20-month-old little girl. 20 months old. Not even 2 years old. They pay the cartels to sneak them across the river. They come in a boat. As the border patrol approach their boat, they do what they normally do. They throw the family in the river, knowing they can't swim, because they know the men, the heroes of the border patrol, are going to jump in that river with all that gear on and try to save these families, and that's what happened. Smugglers threw the family in the water, including that 20-month-old baby. They turned around and went home. Of course, the border patrol's not chasing them. They're going to save these people in the river. And they thought they saved all 3 of them, mother, father, and the 20-month-old. The 20-month-old later died in the hospital. The doctor told me during the post-mortem of that little baby, every small opening of her body was sodomized by a member from the cartel. Now I want you to think, while I'm up here on the stage tonight, children and women are being raped by cartels on the southwest border. Any border patrol agent that served on the southwest border knows that. While I'm talking to you tonight, a child will die on the southwest border. While I'm talking to you right now, women are being raped by members of the cartel. Not once, many times. I've talked to girls as young as 9 years old that were raped multiple times by members of the cartel. 9! And when you look into a 9-year-old's eyes, get on your knees, you look into the eyes of a 9-year-old, and everything innocent and pure of that little girl has been ripped from her. Her life will never be the same. That shit happens every day. That's why I'm pissed off. President Trump had a lockdown. When 90% less people are coming, how many women are being raped? When 90% less people are coming, how many babies aren't dying? When 90% less people are coming, how many pounds of fentanyl is it in the country to kill Americans? When 90% decrease, how many non-suspected terrorists did it get in the country? President Trump had a lockdown. And the only thing that keeps me excited is we're going to lock it down again when he becomes president. And I'll end it with this. The only thing President Trump says that upsets me during the rally is that he's going to run the biggest deportation operation in the country. Because you know what? Tom Homan's going to run the biggest deportation operation. And you can take that to the bank. And my first stop is upstate New York. This is home. They pissed me off, but they're attacking my home. So you got my word. When I'm back, New York State will get the attention first because this is my home. God bless you.
How about that? And I can attest to that. I asked Tom Homan if we could get him a hotel. I asked Tom Homan if we could get him a driver. I asked Tom Homan if we could get him somewhere to stay. And he said, I don't need any of that. I don't need a green room. I'm coming home. And he meant it. So that concludes tonight's program. Thank you, Mr. Homan. You guys have exactly 1